Hello and welcome to the 200th episode of docrafts TV. Today we're joined by Beckie James, who's going to show us a really clever vintage tissue collage technique. But first I wanted to show you another vintage inspired range that's going to be out in January. It's the newest release from Papermania and it's called Madame Payraud. And as you can see, it's a beautiful eclectic mix of ephemera and labels and all sorts of botanical images as well. And it's just beautiful. There's imagery of nature and just all sorts of wonderful, wonderful things, and also some more staple images as well that you can use as your backgrounds and so on. I just love it. I can't wait to get started. Of course, the range has many, many exciting embellishments, including this beautiful vintage style pattern craft tape. My favourite, I think, is this typewriter inspired one here. Very, very exciting. Hi Beckie, thanks for coming along. What have you got for us?
Well, today we're going to look at techniques using the new Papermania tissue paper.
Lovely.
Tissue paper is really trendy, it's really hot in the crafting world at the moment.
Good.
And what we've done here is actually to make a tissue paper collage.
That's beautiful.
So layering all the tissue papers up that we've got.
Really sort of
and also
shimmery,
this lovely vintage bow is made from tissue paper and ribbon as well. So we're going to just look at a few techniques this time around. I've actually torn out some sort of elements of the designs here.
So you've got some music paper.
We've got some script, and we're going to build those up for the backgrounds. But then I've also pulled out a coffee splodge and one of the roses, and that's what we're going to use to add the main detail to it. So this is such a simple technique. It's almost like going back to kindergarten when you were at school. Make sure you've got some nice scrap paper underneath. Actually, I'm going to start with the script paper here. So just get an applicator or a brush, doesn't matter which, and we're just going to pop this on here. It doesn't have to be put on thickly. You don't need a lot of it. And when you're putting your layers on as well, one thing that you can do is you can speed it up with a heat tool. I prefer not to, but you can do. It's entirely up to you. Now, when you pop this on here, I'm putting my first layer on, and this is going to be this is the text. Now, it doesn't matter as well. Let me just get a little piece of paper here. If you end up with some creases and things like that, because it just adds to that whole collagey, vintage feel as well. And I'll just pull this up from underneath. Oh, there we go. Yeah. And then I'm just going to
that looks lovely already.
Put the edges around the back. And you can just glue those down or tear them off. It's up to you. So we've started off with the text. Now what happens is that when we put the music over the top, you'll start to see the detail come through from underneath. So again, just pop a bit of glue on. I mean, it's just so easy. Now then, next I've got my two smaller elements. I'm going to put my coffee splodge on first because I want my rose to be the dominant image. But what I've done here as well, so that we can blend things in, is I've ripped or cut quite close to the design. And
you haven't been particularly sort of intricate about that, it's just sort of roughly?
It is roughly, yeah, absolutely. So now we're going to do a couple of colour tinting techniques. Let's just pop that over there. I've got an acrylic block and I've got a selection here of artiste watercolour markers here. And I've got a brush. So the first thing that I'm going to do is actually to create the background. Okay. So I'm actually choosing some blues and greens, almost kind of skyey nature colours and that sort of thing. So blues, greens, a bit of yellow, add a bit of sunshine to it. And all I'm doing is just with the brush marker and just scribble them on here, as if you were going to be stamping or something like that, using them to watercolour for stamping. So we'll just do that. Put those to one side. I can get a bit more if I need to afterwards. Nice. So for this, I'm actually going to use a fairly damp brush and just pick up the colour, and I'm basically just.
Oh wow!
So it really is very much you're not going to get a bright sort of colour with this. It really is a colour tint, but it gives you a hint of background colour, and it means that you don't just have to leave things white. So here I'm going to add my colour And then I'm going to blend it out slightly with my...
Oh, lovely.
So that you get that shade. So where you've applied it, it's nice and deep, but you're pushing the colour out.
Yeah.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make the beautiful vintage bow. And the first thing I'm going to do is just to concertina it. So it doesn't...
You're just pinching that together just really quickly.
Really quickly. It doesn't need to be perfect.
In fact, I guess you don't want it to be perfect, do you, really?
No, you don't, absolutely. No, absolutely.
Vintagey.
And I've got a little bit of wire here, and I'm just going to pinch the corner, pinch it in the centre so that we've got it nice and secure there. Now, I'm going to use a couple of my favourite pairs of scissors as well that we've bought out, because I think everybody always thinks that pinking shears have to be for sewing, but they don't.
No.
And I want to give this a nice, it's not perfect. You're not going to see a perfect zigzag or anything, but just to take away the fact that I've got I
guess it's worth mentioning that if you use your scissors on paper, you might blunt them a little bit. So it's best to keep them for paper or for fabric.
Yeah.
So if you want to use it for both, you might need to pick up 2 pairs, but they're pretty fantastic for both, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Like you say.
Now what we're going to do is we're going to layer behind that some ribbon.
Lovely.
I've got some of the wide LVCC ribbon here, and I'm going to show you how you can get these lovely sort of fringed vintage frayed edges. It's actually quite difficult if you just start pulling it to get this sort of effect. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm going with my pinking shears. We're just going to cut down there. And then my other favourite scissors, which are these lovely squishy handled, comfort handled pro scissors in the X-Cut range. I'm just going to slit down where the V's are where I've cut the pinking shears. There we go.
Lovely.
And when you've done that, you can start to really easily pull the threads away. And you can see really easy and quick to do. And I just love that sort of that frayed feel to it. Right, so again, I've got 2 bits because this is going to it's going to sort of sit nicely behind there, and I want it nice and thick. So I'm going to start again with another piece of wire, do exactly the same. And this is the Cousins 28 gauge wire, so it's only a thin wire, which makes it quite flexible and means it's easy to do this sort of thing with. So we'll just wrap that around the centre a bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bow and add that onto the centre. Okay. And then we're going to wrap it round again, so it's all joined together. There we go. Right then. So now we don't want to see that wire in the centre there. No. So I've got a strip of, now this is the thin, the 3mm LVCC ribbon, which is lovely. So what I'm going to do there is I'm just going to pop the ribbon around there, and we're just going to wrap it round the centre of the bow.
That's a good way of doing it.
So that it just hides that gold. Don't want that in there. Just keep going until I've got to the back again. Pop another blob. As you know, I love my hot melt glue guns, so it makes these sort of jobs
totally
simple.
Invaluable, isn't it?
Yeah. Just give that a quick snip. And then I'm just going to pull everything out. So you've got this lovely vintage bow. If you want to, again, as I was saying before, you can add a touch of the Papermania iridescent glue to the edges. With I would just do that with a glue pen, something like a glue pen, and that'll hold everything in place. Tell you what, best way to do this: start with the bow with the flower in the centre. Might help. There we go. Flower in the centre. Wrap that round. Wrap the wire around. So, and then you just put them all together on the card like we have here, with some vintage embellishments like the lace, the brown string, the Papermania brown string, and the adhesive pearls, which are an absolute favourite of mine, particularly when I'm working on a vintage style project.
Yeah, they're beautiful, aren't they? Thank you so much for showing us those techniques. They're wonderful. I can't wait to get started using some of the tissue paper. I think we're going to be covering everything with it, aren't we?
Yes, I think so, yes.
If you've enjoyed Beckie's project, you can find all the instructions online at docrafts.com, along with a list of the supplies she's used as well. If you've made a card you're really proud of, why not drop us an email to tv@docrafts.com. We'd love to see what you've been making. I'm sure Beckie would love to see them as well.
Absolutely.
So yes, drop us an email and we could show it on a future episode of TV or even in Creativity magazine. Until next time, happy crafting.